Truth or dare? Trouble Films is back with a whole new take on this slumber party staple. And let me tell you, Truth or Dare was my favorite slumber party game when I was growing up. Truth or Dare explores desire during a pandemic in a way that seems natural, lighthearted, lusty, and healing. The virtual orgy took place in late May 2020 while performers were sheltered in place in their homes around the world. Truth or Dare is on sale at troublefilms.com/shop along with other works made by queer porn stars. This is a collective release, meaning that it's co-owned by the performers, and you can also get it by reaching out to any of the stars of the film: Sin Sage, Estelle Bathory, Drake Manowar, Miss Mary Jane, Lita Lecherous, and Chelsea Poe. Welcome to the Peep Show podcast.
News and stories from the sex industry.
With Jesse and PJ Sage. Welcome back to another episode of the Peep Show podcast. This week, Maxine Holloway is with us talking about sex work and pregnancy. We discuss the pregnant body, client reactions to being with a pregnant sex worker, adjusting to the postpartum body, and the stigma associated with sexual mothers.
Hey, I'm Adrian, one of the hosts of After Adult Podcast. My porn name should be Mozart Fremont, but you probably know me better by my actual porn name, Siri.
I'm Rachel, but my porn name would be Woody 16th Avenue.
After Adult is a podcast about life and porn.
I don't actually watch porn.
I don't really watch that much porn either. I probably watch more than you, but I mean, most of the time it kind of would feel like going to work on my day off.
You 100% watch more than me, because I don't watch porn. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for After Adult.
Or visit afteradult.com and follow us on Instagram at afteradult.
Welcome back. I am on my own again today, and I'm missing my co-host. Actually, he's sitting in the room next to me, but he is very busy working on his dissertation. So we've been talking about this for a while, but he's trying to get his draft ready so he can defend in November. So he's been like doing nothing but that. That's not actually true. He's also teaching his classes. So he's teaching his classes and working on his dissertation, which means that I'm doing the show on my own, except actually last night, really, we put out our Peep Show Live from earlier this month on the podcast, and he and Courtney ran that. So he's still around and will be returning to Peep Show soon. But this episode I did on my own. I talked to Maxine Holloway, and that was so fun for me, I have to say, because I love talking about pregnancy and I love talking about pregnant bodies, and I miss being pregnant, and I'm very old now, so I will not be pregnant again, which makes me a little bit sad. So it was nice to talk to somebody who's pregnant about how that intersects with sex work. I talked a little bit in the interview about how I did camming when I was pregnant. I actually didn't do it under Jesse Sage. Jesse Sage didn't even exist then. I cammed with PJ under a different name, and that was a really good experience for me, even though, and I said this to Maxine, camming itself wasn't a great experience for me, but that part of it was. So it was neat to hear how her interactions with clients, both in in-person work and in online work, have been like shaped by her pregnancies plural. This is the second one. And also kind of how to deal with that during COVID. So we spent a lot of time talking about pregnancy and pregnant bodies and the Madonna horror complex and all the things that I really like talking about. So I hope you guys enjoy the episode. I'm trying to think of what other sort of news things to tell you about what's going on in Peep Show land. Let's see. Like I said, we got the last Peep Show Live out yesterday on sex work and disability. I really enjoyed that panel. I sat back and didn't host it. And the reason I didn't host it was really intentional. I am actually not somebody who deals with any sort of disabilities. So I wanted to give space to the people who do. And it was really lovely and informative and inspiring. So I hope you guys got a chance to listen to that. Other than that, my column is going. I am enjoying that. And we have some really interesting articles from contributing writers that are coming your way, and I will let that be a surprise until they're here, but you guys will like it. And that's all the Peep Show news for now. I hope you guys are all well, and I hope you enjoy this interview with Maxine talking about pregnancy and sex work.
Thanks for joining us today. Jesse and I are dedicated to platforming sex worker voices and covering important political issues for those in the sex trades. But we can't do it without your help.
If you believe in our mission, find us at patreon.com/peepshowpodcast and show us some love.
We're also seeking advertisers to help us grow. Thanks for helping us make Peep Show happen.
I'm here today with Maxine Holloway, who is a sex worker, advocate, event producer, and mama. She is an in-person provider and porn performer specializing in all things MILF. She works for sex worker justice through an ever-intersecting avenues of community organizing, public health, politics, education, media, and art. She is the co-founder and member of Bay Area Workers Support, a peer-led sex work resource organization. Maxine writes a monthly column for a local indie media publication, Broke Ass Stewart, Brain Throbs, and Blowjobs, where she interviews local providers, strippers, activists, and porn performers. Maxine has a master's degree in public health and frequently collaborates with health, equity, and social justice organizations. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you. It sounds like you are very busy.
Yeah, I am a busy person.
Yeah, and you're pregnant now, huh?
I am. I'm pregnant for the second time.
How far along are you right now?
More busy. I am 24 weeks today.
Oh, nice. That's kind of the nice time.
Yeah, it's second trimester, that's my favorite trimester.
I think it's everyone's. You have like the glow, but you're not that uncomfortable yet.
Exactly. Morning sickness is over. It's a thing of the past.
You had pretty bad morning sickness, huh?
Oh, so this is my second pregnancy, and my first pregnancy I had maybe a touch of morning sickness. It really was not a big deal at all. And so just, really thought that would be the case again. I was incredibly nauseous, fatigued, and headached for 16 weeks.
Oh my gosh, that is so long.
Yeah, I was not super happy for those 16 weeks, but
Yeah.
But then with pregnancy, like all these things are happening, and then once you get through it, like you get this kind of strange amnesia about it. You're like, oh, that thing. I barely remember those 16 weeks of agony.
It's funny, childbirth is the same exact way.
Yeah, definitely.
Which was, I remember after I had my first one, and I'll never forget this because the labor was really hard. Like having your first baby is hard. But then, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks later, I said something to my ex-husband like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And he looked at me and he said, were you there? Because he didn't have the amnesia.
Right? It's a totally different perspective.
Yeah. And I was like, wait, was it bad? And he's like, never mind. I mean, it's not bad. It's also amazing. But yeah, you do forget all the bad things and just remember like all the cool parts about it.
Yeah, the drugs that your body produces during childbirth do amazing things to your body and your memory.
Right. That's why you have more kids. You're like, oh, it's amazing. Everything's amazing. But yeah, so I'm glad to hear it's going better now. It's interesting that you bring that up. I think that you bring up how different it was the second time around. Every single pregnancy is totally different.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, you kind of hear that, but I just kind of figured like, oh, I've done this before. Like,
yeah.
I got it again. But it's been an extremely different pregnancy. I mean, every pregnancy is different, but also the world is just very different. Like I got in like a month after COVID hit the US, like work is different, like interacting with friends and family is different.
Yeah.
So
what's that like to be pregnant during COVID?
It's hard, like my last pregnancy, I was working a ton and traveling and doing tours, I have a really wonderful community here in the Bay and was able to get a lot of support from my like chosen family and was able to go visit my blood family a ton, but that's really hard to do right now. So
Yeah.
my partner and I are just like every week trying to figure out how to do this in a much more contained, isolated way, which is a lot harder, especially than also like having a almost 2-year-old at home as well.
Right. Yeah, because they're really stir crazy too.
Yeah, and childcare shut down. I'm lucky that one of my close friends is we were able to kind of open up our pod and have them come in, and she's doing a lot of childcare for me, and that feels really amazing, and I feel fortunate to be in that situation. Otherwise, I don't know if I'd be doing anything right now.
Yeah, that is really fortunate. So how has that looked like? What does your life look like right now, and what does your work look like?
It is different. I really like working while pregnant and really looking, I always knew that I would have another baby and I would be pregnant again. And I really looked forward to meeting with clients and doing that again. This pregnancy, I wouldn't say it was unplanned, but it was the timing of it was a little of a surprise. And when I found out I was pregnant, like I just didn't think that COVID was going to last this long.
Right. I don't think anybody thought that.
Yeah, I was like, by summertime I'll be like showing, it'll be a perfect time to dive right back into work.
Yeah.
So yeah, that part has been interesting because I really wanted to just kind of like dive back in and have that work experience again. So I attempted to do like a big shift in the beginning and do a lot of online video work. And, I've always created content. I have an OnlyFans and clips for sale and run my own site, milflessons.fun.
I like that.
Yeah. And I love doing that, but it is really hard to do that without having a lot of like childcare. Like it's hard to find time to make that type of content. So that didn't maybe launch as strong as I would have liked it to be able to.
Right.
That being said, I am making a considerable amount of content while I'm pregnant, and I'm doing a lot of really fun, exciting customs for people and try to keep engaged with my OnlyFans and things like that. I recently made the decision to do some in-person work again, and am just trying to put a lot of harm reductive measures into how I'm seeing clients and meeting with people. So it's been a little, there's a lot more steps involved in getting together with someone right now. But a lot of my regulars or people that are excited to see me have been happy to kind of figure that out with me so we can get together in a way that feels safe and exciting for both of us.
Yeah. So one of the things that you said earlier was that you really liked seeing clients when pregnant. What was it about it that you liked? Do you feel sexier pregnant, or was it their client reactions to your pregnancy? Or tell me a little bit about what that was like, or what that is like.
Yeah. So I really love my body when I'm pregnant. I feel really, really in touch and like in my body. I love like feeling and seeing my curves getting bigger. You have this really nice rush of exciting hormones that feel really good. Like I think that I've always had like a little bit of a pregnancy fetish even before I was pregnant. So it's something that I find hot and arousing to begin with.
I like that too. I loved being pregnant.
Yeah.
I liked having orgasms when I was pregnant. It felt like so intense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which it's so interesting because people like completely desexualize, or not, not everybody, obviously, but our culture desexualizes moms and pregnant bodies in a way that doesn't make any sense to me.
It doesn't. It's so strange. It's like this weird Madonna horror complex that people have. It's like, the moment you get pregnant, you're not supposed to be a sexual person anymore, when I feel so incredibly sexual while pregnant.
Mhm. Yeah. So what was your yeah, I totally understand that from like the perspective of like how you feel in your body because you are just like filled with all these hormones and you're very like voluptuous. I love that about being pregnant. But how did your regulars and your clients interact with your pregnant body? Was it different?
Yeah, so I was a little bit nervous to announce publicly that I was pregnant the first time. I didn't quite know how regulars or fans would respond. I've been
Mhm.
kind of a professional naked person on the internet for about a decade now, and knew that I would be comfortable sharing my pregnant body as well. But uh, there's some, but there's not a ton of examples out there of like people working while
Yeah.
pregnant very publicly. Um,
Mhm.
though there are a few, and it was really, really amazing to see people like Sadie Loon or Danny Gold that were so public about their pregnancy and work. That was really inspiring. So I was a little hesitant, and I kind of waited till like I was like absolutely, absolutely showing to say anything. But the response was overwhelmingly like excited and positive that I almost wish I would have announced it earlier. Um,
Uh-huh.
and I think I was a little like taken aback at just how like excited and sought after pregnant provider people were. And I was like,
Hmm.
wonderful and great.
Yeah.
I had a really good time working because I think people were just so excited for the opportunity to have some type of encounter with a pregnant person that
Mhm.
excitement really lent itself to some very fulfilling and exciting dynamics in my work.
Yeah, did you find that and I'm kind of asking this question out of my own experience because in my last pregnancy, I didn't do in-person work, but I did camming. I did a lot of camming when I was pregnant, and one of the things that was so interesting to me about that is that what I expected was kind of that maybe people would fetishize it or think it was hot, but what I found instead was that most of the people who were viewing were parents themselves and were like very nostalgic. Like I had and sweet. Like I had so many viewers who were like, "Oh, I remember when my wife was pregnant and it was, one of my like it was very sweet and or I miss my like feeling my wife's belly and feeling the baby kick." And there was so much like sweet nostalgia and not the sort of fetishy stuff that I expected. And so I'm wondering like were your clients parents and have that sort of like sentimentality or were they more like single people who hadn't experienced that before or was it a mix?
It was a mix of both. There were definitely people that like maybe had that experience when they had a kid with their partner and really wanted to recreate that and kind of revisit
Mhm.
in a similar way that you described. I had some really wonderful threesome clients with like a married couple who had
Oh,
themselves, and that was really sweet. Um,
yeah.
but the kind of demographic that most surprised me is that a lot of my clientele got a lot younger.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
yeah, which now that I think about it, I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like who doesn't want a mommy? um,
Yeah.
but like I'll never forget my very first client. Like I just kind of like opened the door and was taken aback because they were like quite young, like
Uh-huh.
gorgeous blonde, wavy, long hair, like pink
Aw.
fingernails, covered in tattoos, and in their early 20s. And
Mhm.
I just kind of had to like recalibrate and like kind of get my head ready for that. I was like, oh, look at this like hot young tattooed boy. That's exciting. Um, so like more of like the boys
Yeah.
like something that's been was a little bit of surprise, but now I'm really like excited about and embracing. Um, and a lot of people that are very intentionally childless
Mhm.
who have expressed that they maybe just like have like would don't really see themselves having kids, so they would maybe never have an opportunity to have sex with someone that is pregnant and really just experience that, or think that pregnant women are very attractive, but maybe won't actually get to access that in their own life. Which I thought was interesting. And that being said,
and it makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think part of what is exciting about it is that it is not something that's available all the time and is available for such a limited amount of time that the temporariness is exciting, combined with all of the other taboos and wonderful things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a good amount of my online and in-person clients who I would say have like mommy or pregnancy fetishes and have really developed role play scenarios and fantasies that we get to act out, which is always fun and exciting as well.
What's one of your favorite like mommy role plays?
Ooh, I love all kinds of mommy role play. I have a lot of fun doing. It's interesting. People have a lot of impregnation fantasies, even though I'm already pregnant.
Yeah.
Fantasies don't always have to like totally line up and make all the sense.
Right. You're like, you can't impregnate me right now, but okay, let's play. Yeah.
I think those are really fun. Any type of mommy stuff, like, or stepmommy stuff, or hot MILF next door. I have a really good time doing.
Yeah, I think that's fun too. And, I do a lot of phone sex where it doesn't matter that I'm not pregnant, but I also get that a little bit of like, oh, I want to impregnate you. And I think that there's something in like that medium too, that people feel like they can play with something that would be like dangerous in other, they actually don't want to get everyone they have sex with pregnant, but it's fun to play with that. It becomes like a taboo.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, like the consequences of that isn't great, but in fantasy, it's really fun.
Absolutely, and I think that like getting to like see and then like feel that the results of that type of fantasy is pretty fun.
Yeah. So I kind of followed your first pregnancy. And it seemed like you got some like pushback against that from people in the community. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I felt pretty aware that pregnant sex workers aren't like the most welcomed, and there's a lot of stigma attached to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to say it. I felt pretty aware that there's a lot of stigma attached to being a pregnant sex worker. I want to kind of just acknowledge that being like a white cis college educated worker definitely like protects me from a lot of the bullshit that non-white workers deal with when
pregnant,
and being a sex worker. But that being said, like I knew there would be something. I didn't quite expect it to come like from my community in that way. I regularly receive emails from, I don't know, I guess they're potential clients or just people that are looking online about how horrible of a mother I am going to be and how I'm.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah. Sometimes they're from the same person. Like some person, like when I was touring in Boston, felt the need to email me every single day. And
wow,
even people that I think were, seeking a provider sometimes people would see that I was pregnant and be really upset by that.
Yeah.
So, I think overall I felt really supported and accepted by my community and clients in general. There's definitely some, I would say, misunderstanding and judgment about my decision to work and support my family while being
I feel like a lot of that like is a misunderstanding of like what pregnant bodies are like and what the baby has is exposed to.
So strange. It's just like, you don't understand pregnant bodies if they are saying, like, I would get responses like, oh, this is the same as child exploitation. And I'm just like, what do you think is happening to someone's body when they're pregnant? Like,
Yeah.
you need to read some books.
Yeah, I mean, I had that reaction too, just when I saw some of that. Like, why do people even think this? Why don't they understand that like babies are sheltered, that our bodies are built to be able to protect babies when we're pregnant? To hit the pause button and head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Even $1 a month shows us that you care and want to see Peep Show continue to thrive. Also, you can help increase our reach with a review on iTunes.
Absolutely. And, like having sex is a perfectly healthy and natural thing to do while pregnant and
It's a good
helps.
thing to do while pregnant.
Yeah, it increases, oxytocin and all these wonderful hormones. Like, it's interesting. And then, and I mean, it just kind of shows how puritanical people think. Like, whether I'm having sex with my partner or a lover or a client, like, people have such different ideas of what that is like. It's not easy to get those types of responses, and but for the most part, I do a pretty good job of insulating myself with folks that support me and my decision to work while pregnant. Yeah. I mean, I say decision, but also like I've been a career sex worker for over a decade. It's not like I have another job or
right.
can I'll take a year off work. Like, that is not in my financial prospects.
Right.
So,
yeah,
very presumptuous and annoying when people think that I should or even could not work while pregnant.
Where do you think that attitude comes from?
I mean, I think it's a very misogynistic point of view, and it's about not understanding and controlling pregnant people's bodies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think there's like these certain puritanical roles that people feel like pregnant people are supposed to fill or women are supposed to fulfill.
Right.
And, that this like age old Madonna whore complex where you're either like this desirable sexual entity.
Right.
And once you become a parent or a mother, that is supposed to just be thrown out the window. And, as a sexual person, like that, that has to do with, doesn't always have to do with being a sex worker, but just as a sexual person who enjoys sex, likes sex, would like to continue having a lot of sex.
Yeah.
And also like has now been pregnant twice and is a mom, like that part of my like desire and that part of my identity didn't disappear when I became a mom.
Right.
It has changed, and sometimes it is enhanced and sometimes it is harder to access and all of these things, but there's no way that would just disappear.
Right.
So not having that, like, I think often women don't have that space to like continue to explore that in a way that feels good after becoming a parent. Like, first, it's just hard after you become a parent. You can just have the time to like be a sexual person at first.
Right.
But let alone.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also like a lot of like healing your body has to do in the process of like bonding with this new person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And then you're getting all this messaging about, or maybe it's not messaging that you're not supposed to be sexual, but you're not getting a lot of messaging that isn't like, I mean, I use the term and identify as a MILF, but I also recognize that's like, can be really hard and like kind of problematic for like someone who maybe isn't trying to be a professional naked person.
Yeah.
Like there aren't a lot of examples of a desirable hot mom that doesn't kind of like reference just like this, like a certain type of body, and like still having a youthful, even though it's like an older woman, but still having all these like youthful characteristics.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that even this term that I've kind of chosen to like embrace and use, I think can box moms and parents in this way that doesn't really give the full breadth of like what it's really like to be a sexual person and be a parent.
Yeah. What are your thoughts? I mean, I guess this is a little controversial, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on non-moms using MILF branding.
Yeah, that's a great question. I see that come up a lot.
I do too. Just if you're a certain age, then people like cross over into MILF, even if, they're not mothers. And I was curious what you think about it.
Yeah, I think like it doesn't bother me when I see people use it because I feel like it's kind of necessary in a lot of the industry that we're in. Like
Mhm.
if you don't look 18, then you're a MILF, basically.
Yeah.
Fucked up, and I hate that. But I'm also all about like leveraging these labels and boxes that people put us in order to like make more money. Like fuck yeah, do
Sure.
though I would really love to see, and I think it's something that the industry does, that it's not necessarily that's what the clientele wants. Like I feel like
Mhm.
clientele, whether it's fans or in person, like there's a lot more room for a diverse representation of age and body types.
Yeah, absolutely.
The industry really puts folks in these boxes in order to market them, and I just think it's a marketing situation that is dated and needs a makeover for sure.
Yeah, I think about this all the time because my experience with like clients and their desires like actually doesn't line up with what the industry pushes as what's desirable.
Yeah, same. And that's been really like I didn't know that when I first entered.
I didn't know that either, and I wish I did because I would have saved myself some some negative feelings.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it wouldn't have taken so many diet pills, and I would have eaten more ice cream for sure.
I feel like that's what I've like gained from being in the sex industry is much less body shaming than I used to have before I was here, and that's counterintuitive to people who are outside of it.
Absolutely. Like I feel very similarly where I think before I started doing sex work, I really wanted my body to look a certain way, and
Mhm.
sharing my body that has changed in size, it's changed in pregnancy, not being pregnant, and like I've worked with a postpartum body, which has not always been easy, but it has made me appreciate and see that like lots of different types of bodies are desired, and
Mhm.
if other people can appreciate and desire my body, that I can maybe be a little kinder and appreciative of my body as well.
Yeah. What was it like to work with a postpartum body?
That was hard. I would say that was probably the hardest time of figuring out how to work.
Mhm.
I went from like having this pregnant body that I just loved and felt really good in to, postpartum bodies like are different, and like my belly was softer and
Mhm.
my breasts were different, and like everything was different.
Yeah.
Energy level
Mhm.
was different. So I really like did my best to kind of like strap it all in and make it work. But, but there was definitely times that I felt more insecure about my body than I had in a long time.
Mhm.
But also felt that like a need and a pressure to like get back to work. And I, it was hard. It was definitely like a little bit of a
Yeah.
like in my head battle.
Yeah.
And expecting that to happen again, like after
Right.
giving birth this time. So yeah, I think
That's like an interesting time for anyone, I think, outside of work, because the thing that's like interesting about pregnancy, at least this was my experience when I had my kids, but was that pregnancy changes like really gradually, and you get to have this like very long gradual experience of your body changing, and then right after you give birth it like suddenly snaps into like a totally different shape. And
yeah.
it's almost like jarring.
Yeah, absolutely. Jarring's a good word for that.
Suddenly you're like, okay, well, I'm not pregnant anymore, but this isn't the body that I had before I got pregnant, so I don't know how to make sense of this like new experience.
Yeah. And I mean, and I think that like, you know, if I wasn't naked and on the internet, I maybe wouldn't have felt so intense. But like,
Yeah.
I think it was like, you know, being photographed for some of the first times after giving
Mhm.
birth and just being like, oh, like I don't recognize that. Like I don't know what to do with that. And had a lot of just like body image stuff come up. And then,
Mhm.
I mean, it's one thing to see it, but then it's another thing to then share it with
With
the
the
internet.
world.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, and there's part of me that really just wants to embrace that, like embrace every role and soft spot, and really appreciate everything that my body has done to like
Mhm.
create a person who I love and adore, and then like
Yeah.
you know feed this person with my body. Like I am in awe of all the things that my body has done, and would like to love and appreciate every change that's happened. But there's still like
Yeah.
that thing in your head where you're like, my body is supposed to look like this, or
There's such consistent messaging to try to paper over that too. I remember so many times, like when I was postpartum, like standing in line at the grocery store and looking at the tabloids and people saying and seeing stories like such and such celebrity is back in their like pre-maternity jeans at 6 weeks. And I was like, wait, what? Like this is,
yeah, fuck you.
this is, I can't even wear them ever again. So I don't know. No, but I think that it was really, it was it's kind of shocking to me when I step back and think about it that like somebody just created a human being and brought them into the world, and what we're concerned about as a culture is like, well, but can they fit back in their like jeans that they wore before yet or not? Like that's the big accomplishment.
That's
And
accomplishment. Yes, it's
yeah.
frustrating. Very frustrating.
Thinking like, but wait, what about like that whole bringing a new person into the world thing? That's kind of amazing.
Yeah, and the people that are able to do that have so much help. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they have like 3 nannies and 2 personal trainers and a chef cooking for them. Like
Right, right.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no wonder, like, the rest of us have it takes a little bit longer to do that
Yeah.
when you don't have a staff of people working on your body.
Yep. Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about returning, to full service work during COVID. Like, w how do you go about this process now?
Yeah. So I have a COVID protocol where I'm
Mhm.
asking folks to get tested and get the results within 2 to 3 days of meeting with me.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and that has gotten a little bit easier in the past few months. Like, you know, even just a few months ago, it was harder to get COVID results back
That quickly.
quickly.
Yeah.
Now there's several sites where you can make an appointment like pretty quickly, and in the Bay Area, anyways, get our
Yeah,
results.
I was gonna say that's so regional because 'cause I'm in Pittsburgh and you cannot do that here. Or you
Yeah,
couldn't as of, like, a month ago. I'm not sure about now.
yeah, and so I feel fortunate that that's something that California and Oakland and San Francisco are prioritizing.
Mhm.
But I realize like how much of a privilege that is. I also think that being pregnant gives me a little more leverage with my clients. If I was not
Oh,
working,
yeah.
I don't think that I could really like be having that same ask, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Mm-hmm.
of hoops to jump through, and I think that people are willing to do it for this experience that is a little more rare and hard to come by.
Mm-hmm.
But just, want to acknowledge that that's not always a viable thing
Possible.
for most
Yeah.
providers to be able to ask their clients to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm seeing less clients than I would normally, trying to, space them out and
Yeah.
asking them to practice wearing masks and some, efficient social distancing within 2 weeks before seeing me.
Mm-hmm.
So this, usually I would be able to book a same day appointment or an appointment for tomorrow pretty easily. That's something I've always been open to doing. So
Yeah.
that's requiring more planning ahead, which
Right.
clients don't always really like to do.
They're like, but I want it now.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah, that would be cool, but the world's a little different right now. So
Right.
I'm definitely experiencing a financial hit for sure.
Right.
So yeah, I'm trying to kind of make up for that by having a 2-hour minimum. It just feels like, if I'm going to be taking a risk, which I am, of being
Yeah.
exposed to COVID, even if we're both tested, there's still risk there.
Right.
Then it's going to need to be for a longer amount of time and a larger amount of money.
Yeah, it needs to be worth worth the risk.
Yeah. So yeah, it's disappointing in some ways. Like I really wanted to work
Yeah.
the way I did last time, but I'm trying to make it work, and I feel comfortable enough with the protocol that I've put in place, and
Yeah.
I will even be traveling to the East Coast later this month to do one tour.
Okay.
Yeah, my last pregnancy, I was in New York and different places about 3 or 4 times, but I'm going to do one tour,
Just one this time. Yeah.
just one, which I'm excited about. There's some lovely friends that I have on the East Coast that I'm excited to get together with, and I'm really excited about eating a big New York bagel and cream cheese while pregnant. I'm really excited to meet.
It's worth going just for that, huh?
That's the real reason I'm going on tour.
I think that every time I go to AVN, because I'm from California and I'm used to the taco shops that have, all of the taco
Oh,
shops that are in Southern California, and they have them in Vegas. And I swear I'm like, yeah, I'm going to shoot with people and that's going to be cool. But I'm also going to eat rolled tacos and guacamole.
yeah, that is a fair reason to travel to AIM.
I'm like, yeah, clips, social networking, rolled tacos and guacamole.
Really, Mexican food is why I'm here. Yeah, I don't think I could ever leave the West Coast because of Mexican food, really. I grew up in
Yeah.
Arizona and then have lived in California the rest of my life, and it's just a part of me now.
I know it does. I'm like, I need a hot sauce that you squirt out of a bottle. I just need
Yeah.
that. It needs to burn my tongue. I want that.
Yeah.
There's nothing like that in Pittsburgh.
Oh, I know. I've been to Pittsburgh before. I have family there.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. It's been several years. I used to go there every summer when I was little.
Oh, I like Pittsburgh, but the Mexican food isn't great.
Yeah, that is not what they're known for.
But as cities go, it's not bad.
Yeah, definitely.
I loved hearing about your experiences. It's really interesting to me. And I also have to say that I really liked I don't cam anymore. I should preface this because I'm about to say I really liked camming when I was pregnant, and I always consistently say I hate camming, and I do hate camming. But but the only I'm not a big cammer. I like making clips. I like doing sex work. I like talking to clients. Camming is not my thing. But when I was pregnant and I did it, it was really interesting because I liked the sort of the way that people interacted with me. It was very it was like sweeter and more like tender, nostalgic or something. And there was something about that experience that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I feel that too. And I think clients, I mean, that's probably part of the reason why I enjoy working so much is clients do that as well,
Mm-hmm.
which is lovely. And I will take that, but also kind of like think it's bullshit. Like there's this certain, like a woman has to be like pregnant in order,
Right.
in order for people to be respectful and sweet.
Exactly, because that's why I
It's
usually hate
very,
camming, because I'm like, I can't deal with these people who are like, stand up, turn around, show me your ass, show me your feet. I'm like, I can't do this all day. I lose interest in it. But they were nice when I was pregnant. So you're right. That is a bunch of bullshit, though.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a certain like privilege and I'll take it, but I'm like, I also like, I see you. You're going to be nice to me in 9 months.
Yeah, no kidding. So it was lovely to talk to you. Where can people find you and find out more about your tour and your clips and what you have going on?
Yeah, best place to see what I'm up to is to follow me on Twitter. My handle is at Maxine Holloway. You can check out my online offerings at milflessons.fun. And you can see my Safe for Work website, which is maxineholloway.com. But all the real action and fun happens on Twitter, so be sure to catch me there.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for hanging out with me today.
Yeah, thanks for talking with me. I had a really nice time.
Thank you for joining us for yet another episode of the Peep Show podcast. I'm PJ Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at PeachSage.
And I'm Jessie Sage, and you can find me on Twitter at sapiotextual or at jessiesage.com.
We would like to remind you that we have a Patreon account and would appreciate your support. Please visit patreon.com/peepshowpodcast. Our music is courtesy of Joe Kennedy. The show was produced by Jessie and PJ Sage.
Signing off. Have a great week.